Hi everyone. So the topic of this video is this meme that I'm sure a lot of you have seen, which says that there are two types of people in this world. Those that have to have zero unread emails in their inbox, they're very organized, they make sure all their conversations are covered. And those that just let thousands accumulate in there. And, maybe they won't ever get to all their emails. So which one am I? Well, I'm the second one. I'm the one who has always has thousands just sitting there and I don't read them all. And I'm not going to lie and say that that's a good thing because this has led to very concrete problems. But it's also not entirely a bad thing. So in this video, I want to go over one, why does this happen? Why are there two different types of people in this world? Two, the pros and cons of each archetype. And three, a possible solution to these problems. So for the first question, why does this happen? I can only really talk about personal experience. And what's kind of nice about Michael and I uploading videos to YouTube for such a long time is that there are these archives, like videos from way in the past that sort of show us what life was like even back when we were 14. So this video is from May 2011, which is before BFDI even had 1,000 subscribers. But he's recording a time lapse of himself at 600% speed a couple days after some BFDI episode came out, showing that he's answering, or I guess he's just reading the 597 emails at the time. And it's also he's using Thunderbird, which I feel like shows how classically 2011 it is. But I think even back then you can see how it's starting to become tedious and impractical to get through them all. And if you did dedicate all your time to reading through this, you'd just never get anything else done. And I guess around the same time, H1CNET also blew up. And I used to post on Facebook a lot, so I guess I noticed that it got into the top 10,000 most viewed websites. Okay, this page is a lot too much bragging, so I think we just have to move on to the more like reasonable sides of things. So, okay. Also, email just gets filled with spam, and I know a lot of people will say that. I think that's a big reason why I would stop checking it is because sure I can sift through spam, but spam makes it a less enjoyable experience, and even if it is doable, if it dips below a certain level, then I'll just be like it's not fun enough. So yeah, there's spam, and I also okay, I guess yeah, in early 2012, Scale of the Universe blew up, and I started getting dozens of emails a day, and a lot of them were asking about if they could translate Scale of the Universe into other languages, which is a big honor that they're willing to just volunteer, unpaid. They just want to help out. And I think my mom and I sort of set up this system, and you can see it on the left, where I would create these folders for every language that someone proposed, so that if multiple people proposed the same language, they could work together or something. And I just started creating all these folders: L Albanian, L Arabic, L Basque. This was before people would say common carry L. It's not that, right? It's just L for language. And, I thought to myself, I'm being so responsible. I'm such a good adult that I had this so organized. But I think what I didn't realize back then is the more this sort of bureaucratic form takes place, the more it weighs me down. And inevitably, I'm going to feel like it is less fun to check my email and more work-like. And I can't blame myself for not checking it as often because of that. And I still have it open here. Well, this is the actual page. This is actually Roundcube, which is what I used to check emails back in 2012. And I can click on any of these Serbian, and that one has errors. Oh, this is so many. Okay, well, it doesn't matter. You don't need to see the exact thing. Anyway, I realized this was becoming unsalvageable. So in 2013, you can see this is a file archive. I tried to do this Excel spreadsheet to graph the emails I was getting over time, and as I sifted through them, it would drop, and then it would accrue again, and then drop. And if it reaches 3,500, sometimes it might just be better to start over, clean slate. If someone emailed you in the past, just hope they email you again, because the fact I went from 3,500 to 4,000, 1,400, I clearly was trying, but it just I don't know. I don't blame myself for this falling apart. Anyway, yeah, spam. So the other thing I was going to point out is yeah, a lot of people will tell me, you're saying spam is an excuse for why you didn't respond to my email. I have a spam filter, so pretty much every email I get is worth it. But here's the thing I think about spam filters is that it assumes that every email is very clearly either in the not spam bucket or in the spam bucket. And I think that it's actually much more of a spectrum of what's worth responding to. And let me just tell you a college experience and how it's relevant. So I would go to a lot of club meetings. Let's say there was one that was about K-pop dance. This isn't the exact one. This is an example. I remember I would like go to the meetings and like sit with these people, and someone would remark, "Oh, I sent out an email promoting the next K-pop dance workshop, but only one or two new people responded, so that's not enough new people. Let me send the promo email again in the hopes of getting more people to convincing more new people to join." I mean, so I get why they do that, but I think when I heard that in the moment, I was a little annoyed because I was like, if the first email didn't get you the people and you just do the exact same thing again, you are now just like flooding everyone at Stanford's feeds with this extra thing. And the reason I thought this was because I was like peak. This was 2017, so I was like peak YouTube algorithm brain, and I did think to myself, as a YouTuber, the onus is on me to try to figure out how to make my video like clickable and like enjoyable to watch for the person who's too busy. And if they're too busy and they dip out, that's on me. But now these people are like being like, if nobody signs up, I'm gonna push it again on you. And it just made me think that like you could have the best spam filters in the world, but if you have like enough coworkers or friends who send you emails about things that are like you kind of want to still hear from them, but you don't really care about this like workshop or whatever, it can start to become like spam. And I definitely think that by the end of my 4 years in college, there was so much like clubs and like events being shouted out in the email chain that it felt like 100% spam, even though it wasn't. Okay, so anyway, I think I want to move on to the more important parts of this video, especially this. Like, if there's nothing else you retain from this video, I want this to be the main point. So I think there are sort of two main ways that human brains work, and I would call them lost in my own world and engaged with the real world. And someone who's lost in my own world, which I would say I am, is someone where like they will think of a project and then they'll like sit on the computer and start working on it, and then like for the next 8 hours time will just fly by and they're just kind of like in this flow state, and they, like the whole outside world, you start forgetting about it as you just like make this like virtual project come to life, during which, you know, you could forget to check your email, or like forget that rent is due, or like even like forget to like eat dinner or something. Like, these things sound very embarrassing, but that's like kind of what happens for a lot of these people. And engage with the real world is the opposite of that, I think. So like, okay, let me just move on. Like, I think people who are really good at dinner parties or like know what's sort of happening in the wider world, like with politics and all that, I think are engaged with the real world. Anyway, so yeah, I'm 100% this side. I want to talk more about the pros and cons of each. So maybe I'll start with the cons first. Okay, so this is a really funny story. Back in high school, I remember like in middle school, I thought to myself from watching like Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies that when I got to high school, there would be like a really elaborate social hierarchy where everyone would know their place on this totem pole. It was very cutthroat, and you could like do these, I don't know, devious maneuvers to work your way up the social hierarchy. Or if you're just really ugly, you'd fall down the social hierarchy. So anyway, when I got to high school and like, you know, several years in, I sort of like remarked to some other classmate like, oh, I feel really happy in this high school because I feel like we don't really have a social hierarchy. And then they said something along the lines of, if you don't think this school has a social hierarchy, it means you're at the bottom. And I know that sounds kind of harsh, but I thought it was just funny in the moment because I guess that did mean I was at the bottom, but like whatever, I didn't really care. But I think that's like been the general trend throughout my life, is that people have always called me oblivious. Like, that's always been the word that people have thought that I just emanate. Like, just the way I carry myself, or the way I talk, or the way I like look around. It seems like I'm oblivious about like these sort of implicit social norms and movements that are happening. Like, or things like at Stanford, they would say, oh, this is the weekend that classes open up for next quarter, or this is the weekend that like dorm applications open up. And I would just never know that because, one, I wouldn't check my email, but two, I guess I was just, there'd be like the talk of the town going around Stanford about these things, and I would just not pick it up somehow. So that's like the downside. And also for this image on the right, I call it lack of social mobility. And I have this picture of VidCon because I think what happens is I can create these virtual worlds online that do reasonably well, but I didn't have any YouTuber friends who weren't like fans of my work first. I didn't have any like YouTuber friends who I could look up to for help until 2017 or so, which is like 9 years into doing YouTube. And I find that like most people who enter some sort of circle, whether that's like a creative one, like the musician space or the actor space, or even like the academic circles, within a year or less than that, they already like have a few mentors, have a few colleagues and peers, and maybe even uh like fans who want to like follow in their footsteps. But I felt like my social network with YouTubers didn't exist at all besides me and my brother until 2017, 9 years in. And that meant that like we were basically invisible when we went to VidCon. And so if we wanted sort of opportunities like, oh, do you want your face on this poster in the background? Like, this is Escape the Night, which was a YouTube Red series back in 2016. Do you want to be on a panel? Do you want to go backstage? None of that was like an option because I just didn't even know who to ask because I didn't have friends. So those are the cons of being lost in my own world. But now let's go to the pros, which, I mean, I guess I already talked about it. I just think that like if you are lost in your own world and you build it, people who come across that will be able to tell it's just way more authentic, diverse, fully fleshed out, and inspiring because you have kind of put your entire creative brain into this. Like, and I think that like Toby Fox creating Undertale or like Bill Warts' videos, these are two people who are famous for not giving many interviews, not being very publicly, like they don't interact with their audiences that much, but whenever they drop anything big, millions and millions of people pay attention because it's such a unique take on the world. Like, yeah, so that's why I think we shouldn't dismiss people who are lost in their world entirely. Okay, so here's another huge downside to being lost in my own world that I think is like the biggest reason why I don't want to just like let this go. So in 2018, like January, I realized like my time at Stanford is limited. It's going to end soon, but I want to take advantage of studying abroad because you don't really get to do that after college. So I applied to study abroad and I got accepted in like March or something. And then I think I was like, yes, I'm going to Kyoto in fall 2018. And then they would send us a few emails about things we had to do to kind of make sure we made it there on time, like submit like legal documents because you need a visa or something to get to a different country and study. And I did do them, but like these new announcements would get sent via email, right? So here's an email sent on April 9th, 2018. Dear Kyoto Autumn Quarter students, please save the date for your upcoming BOSP orientation. This event is required for all accepted and waitlisted students to maintain eligibility for the program. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so here's the important part in red. Any student who does not attend the required orientation session and is not granted an exception will be administratively withdrawn from the program. So these are like very, what's the word? Like strict, unwavering rules. I think I did go to this orientation or something, but there would be like multiple of these emails as time went on, and it almost like gives me PTSD. Okay, I know it's not the same thing as PTSD, but like it almost makes me like start to get nervous just reading these again because I remember getting this email for the first time. So it says, Dear Carrie, according to my records, you did not complete your pre-departure materials for Kyoto 2018-19, which were due Friday, April 20th, 2018. Per the BOSP participation agreement, failure to complete in all pre-departure materials by the deadlines established by BOSP will result in being administratively withdrawn from the program. Therefore, as of today, you have been withdrawn from the autumn quarter program in Kyoto. Please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. So, I respond and I'm very apologetic and I feel awful. So I say, hi, so-and-so. I'm very sorry I failed to complete the pre-departure materials for the Kyoto program. For some reason, I had thought the only requirements were the passport photos, which I did think I submitted on time. But now I see that's not the case. I don't remember the details of this. Maybe it was some like website glitch, or maybe I really did do it late. I don't know. Is there any way for me to submit the form late and get back in the program? I remember hearing that Kyoto was still accepting late submissions because they didn't have enough applicants. Is that still true? Again, sorry for causing such a hassle by not completing the requirements. I really want to study abroad in Kyoto and I'm very frustrated with myself being so negligent. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, long story short, like I didn't get back in. And I applied the next year in 2019 and I did get in. And because I learned my lesson, I checked my email religiously and I did get to go later that year. So I guess it all ended up well in the end. Like I think that I'm glad that I studied abroad in 2019 because I think the friends I made in that cohort were just very nice friends and all that. But I think if we think about this as a case study, many of you might see this and think, well, they laid out all of the rules for you. You signed this BOSP participation agreement or wherever it is. So there's really no debate about who's in the right and who's in the wrong here. Like, you knew the rules, you messed up, and you were removed. And also, I don't really blame the program for removing me because I'm sure they have a million other downstream tasks they need to do to accommodate students. So when students take too long, it just is a wrench in the system, right? So yeah, that's not good. And I want to talk about solutions later, but basically, you can see why people like me, like, there's an issue going on that hopefully we can address. Anyway, so I'm just gonna go over this quickly because for the people who are engaged with the real world, it's basically the inverse of everything I just said. The pros are that they're able to work with other people, understand the situation, and get shit done. And I think of people who are like managers for celebrities, or they're like higher up people at like big tech companies. It's like every time there's some sort of like issue that gets sent to them through email, like, you know, you can rely on them for like a response or some way to address it in the next like 48 hours, whereas you can't rely on that with me or like most YouTubers, I would say. And I think a lot of people would just say, isn't that a quality we could hope that all humans could strive towards? Because is there any downside to being reliable? But I would say the cons are that these, like, this archetype is not very, I know it sounds very harsh, but like not very inspiring and follow formulas too much. And by this I mean, like, now that I'm an adult and like a lot of the friends I went to high school and college with are grown up as well, I do get like quite a lot of former classmates like messaging me years and years later being like, oh, now I see your YouTube channel's doing well, can you give me tips on how to grow my channel? And like, of course I always try to help them to the best of my ability, but I find that like when I ask them like, what's your inspiration, like what genre do you want to do, what's your goals, the sort of like paths they describe to me are very cookie cutter, and I don't want to say it to them in person, but I often don't see a future in which that channel can really inspire a fandom or anything. So like some people say like, oh, like I work for this like startup, and the startup like needs to get more customers, so like as the youngest person in the company, I've been designated as a social media marketer or something like that. Or maybe like, oh, I need to like get, I'm working for like a elementary school, I need to get kids into math, so I'm trying to animate like pandas teaching math. And I wish them the best in those missions, but I think that like because they are so engaged with the real world and they like know like, okay, the startup CEO tells me this, I do this, what they end up thinking when they need to like grow a YouTube channel, it tends to be exactly what they have seen 1,000 times before. But if you do something that's been done 1,000 times before, it will not be successful on YouTube or not like push the creative edge forward in any way. And so sometimes I just think like, in order, like, I don't know if these two qualities are necessarily bound together, but like I think when people say like, Carrie, you need to be more responsible and check your emails more, I sometimes think that like, I don't know, like if you like buy the package of human who is really good at creating like a fictional world like BFDI, I'm not saying like I'm really good at that, but like if you buy that package of a person, what comes with that package is that they also tend to not be so good with following formulas and like being connected with every little thing happening in the outside world, because they dedicated so much mental energy to just focusing on that project. So that's why I think these pros and cons like are intrinsically linked. And that doesn't mean I'm like shulking all responsibility. I think that like all of us can try to be better at skills that we weren't like born with or whatever. But I do think that like it's an important thing to note, because like as you meet people, you kind of notice that people kind of fall into these archetypes, and there aren't many people who like are right in the middle or can do both, you know. But yeah, like it's still good to just try to be better. So anyway, that's what this slide's all about. These two archetypes work best together, so people shouldn't shame the other side as much. And like I think the best example of this is sort of like with Jack and Jellyfy right now. Sort of like I said, Michael and I have been doing YouTube since 2008, and I feel like as early as 2011, as you could see with that like first video I showed you, there was a sizable audience that was worthy of paying attention to as early as 2011, but we didn't really have any connections with any other YouTubers for almost a decade. And so let's say your goal as an aspiring YouTuber is to eventually, I don't know, just have really cool projects and ventures. Like what if you want to screen new episodes at a theater, like in a real venue? Or what if you want to have merch that like is a whole board game that maybe is sold in a retail store, just like things that are like beyond the scope of what you yourself know how to do. You need to have work with people who know those skills, and I didn't up until maybe like post pandemic. But now, Michael and I have sort of like opened ourselves up to collaborating with more people. And also, this is a lot of like giving away trust, like giving away trust of the brand and the IP to a wider range of people because, they'll take it further. So, anyway, I think a channel cannot succeed with only lost in my own world people, because you'll end up like, me in 2016, or just like people who sort of like created one hit wonders on YouTube, but then ran out of steam and couldn't like turn it into a sustainable business or a venture. Like, I don't know. I can't think of any good examples. I don't want to insult people. Like, the first one that just popped in my head was Coney 2012, which is actually not a good example because it was also related in like slacktivism. But just any viral video from like the early 2010s that didn't go anywhere. That's why. But if your team only has people engaged with the real world, they just won't create a video that like kids and people around the world can get inspired by and say, I'm a dedicated fan. Like, I think like the marketing type people who focus fully on like search engine optimization, or like what trends are like numerically, like what analytical tool says these trends are like the highest or whatever, no person who's like a fan will be proud to say, I am like proud to be a fan of this like kind of optimized slop channel, basically. Like, I think that's why you need both, right? You need both, and both sides need to trust the other person to like steer the ship in that department. And the reason I have this like Balatro image in the lower right here is because, okay, I know I've been like obsessed with Balatro recently, but in order to score really well, you need a high number of chips and a high number of molt. And if either of those are close to zero, there's some like arithmetic property that says that like any product times zero is zero, like obviously. So, if your chips are 1 and your molt is like 50, it's way, way, way more valuable to try to find a way to get more chips than to get more molt, because your chips are so close to zero. That's the lacking department. And the really powerful plays are when you found a way to healthily boost, like have a healthy medium amount of both chips and molt. So I think that's like the analogy I'm trying to make to this connection as well. Okay, so I think that's my point, and now I want to get to a possible solution. So after all this, someone might look at me and still be like, but bro, can't you just check your damn email? How much time could that take? And it really does only take half an hour max to like get through even like the 100 or so emails that I like get a day. It's like, you can pretty quickly tell like, oh, this is something I should just dismiss. Boop. Like, if you purely look at how many minutes it takes, it should be very doable. And another thing is like, there's this famous tweet, which like, okay, I'm not saying whether I agree or disagree with the tweet, but just the gist of what they're saying. So someone says, we don't talk enough about how stressful Halloween costumes are for the ADHD community. And then this person replies saying, OMG, you people can't do anything. Now, I don't have ADHD, or I haven't been diagnosed with ADHD, so I don't really want to comment on that part of it. But the gist of why I put this screenshot here is because I am sort of rambling for like 15, 20 minutes about how, oh, my archetype of person just struggles so much with checking email, but you just have to forgive us and let us not check our email because our minds are somewhere else. And it's like, you are talking endlessly. And the amount of time you try to explain why you can't check your email, you could have just checked your email. Why are you making this such a flowery, like condition-based thing? Like, just do it, And then I think that I want to acknowledge that, because if I didn't, it would just seem like I'm just whining or like claiming that like I have some condition that doesn't let me check my email. Like I can just do it, right? So what I want, and okay, and then the other thing I want to point out is that like now I've also been on the other side of this issue, where it's like since 2020 or so, Jack and Jellyfy has added a lot of more people on the team. So now I'm on the side where people working kind of alongside me, I'm relying on them to send me something. Like, I'm asking them, can you send me some deliverable in 3 days? Or I don't give them a deadline, but like if they don't respond in 3 days, now I start to think like this is going to start falling apart and like the project's not going to get done. So I'm very aware that like these people are hard. I'm not saying these people, but like it can be really hard to work with someone who is not very reliable and tries to defend it in some way. And I drew this drawing of, well, like let's say a house is on fire and these people are like passing water buckets down the line. I don't know what this is called. I thought this was called a fire line, but apparently that isn't what it's called. Maybe it's called a bucket brigade or a daisy chain. I don't know. But like if a single person is sleeping and the water's getting passed down and they can't carry it down their length of the chain, this whole shebang will collapse, right? It just won't work. So when you work with a team, you can't just say, I'm lost in my own world, let me be. Every piece of the machine has to be functioning. So the reason I say all this is because everyone is rooting for a solution then. It's like, I'm not saying don't make me check my email. I'm saying my natural tendency and people like me's tendency is to not check email, but let's not use shame as a way to fix it. Let's like acknowledge the skills and the weaknesses and also find a solution that is like effective and not just shame based. So I put some screenshots of ADHD Aliens comics. So wait, hold on. Let's see if I can actually go to their page. So the reason I liked their comic strip is because, so again, I have not been diagnosed with ADHD, so I don't want to claim to know exactly what it's like, but I think there's a lot of like traits that I've read in these comics that I feel like I can relate to. So the biggest one is here. It's like what it's like. Paralyzed by executive dysfunction. Please, body, I need to do the task. Let me do the task. But what people assume is, I could do the task, but I just don't want to. I'm being lazy. And I think that it's like a very common one. It's just like getting up early in the morning or like, I don't know, doing your laundry. It's like you see the pile of dirty laundry and it's like, you know you should do it. And like something in your body just like, you're like trying to get it to get out of bed and like go do that laundry, but like you just resist. And it feels like, oh, I'm being lazy right now, but it's like if you beat yourself up about being lazy, sometimes that beating yourself up makes it even harder to get out of bed. And again, I don't want this to turn too much into the like OMGU people can't do anything thing, but the reason I point this out is because I don't think people who are struggling to get out of bed enjoy being lazy or being called lazy. Like I think everyone, both the like hustlers who get up at 5 and the quote unquote lazy people, want the lazy people to want to get out of bed. Like, wouldn't that be amazing if all humans could just be like that, right? So, yeah, let me just like keep going and see if I can connect everything. Wait, how do I present? What do I press? Well, I'm just gonna do it here. Okay. Oh, this video is so sloppy. Okay. Okay, so when it comes to like, it's so hard to get out of bed. And like I don't want to make that a big thing, but just factually, it seems to not happen for a lot of people. What I wanted to point out is that somehow, after all of these technological advancements like the alarm clock, productivity apps, we humans still are social creatures. And the way I feel about this is that in my own personal experience, these sort of like technological hacks to try to get us to do things we don't want to do, all don't work long term, but what has always worked is being around other people who I want to like show my best self to. So like on a camping trip with like 10 other friends, getting up early feels almost natural and easy. Like even at like 7 a.m. like or at sunrise, like I hear people like kind of coalescing outside and they're kind of giggling and they're chatting. I want to get out of bed to kind of join the fray, you know? And that's just a much healthier thing than an alarm clock, I think. And the same is true not just for getting out of bed, but just anything really. Like, let's say you've been wanting to write a novel. You could download all the apps in the world to track like how many pages per day are you writing the novel while like staying locked in your apartment on your own. And I just feel like you won't ever get the inspiration to like write a good novel. But if you like hang out with other writers who you can bounce ideas off of, you know, if you ever get in writer's block, they can help you out of it. If you ever start to feel like writing isn't even the thing for you, you can talk with these people and maybe they can re-inspire you to get into writing, or they can analyze what you're like and be like, actually, based on what you're saying, it sounds like you're more of a athlete than a writer. Let's go sign you up for some like football games. I don't know how it works with athletes, but the gist of it is like, I just think that people can be their best self when they're around other people. And I know some people will say like, well, doesn't that just mean like you're caring a lot about what other people think, or you're like trying to perform for them? Like if it's like, oh, I only want to wear like fancy clothes because I'm trying to impress all these other people. Like a lot of modern dogmas would say, you got to figure out what you want to do on your own. I just don't think that's true. I think humans at their core will always have a part of them that's like, oh, I want to do something to like, yeah, impress these people, or just like, I don't think that's entirely a bad thing, that like the society you're in is a motivator. And if it works to get you out of bed, or if it works to get you to do better in athletics or writing or whatever project you have, just let it. Like, I think it only becomes a problem of like trying to appease society if it goes against your own individual wishes. But very often, this sort of like societal pressure to do well can actually push you to do better at your own self-driven goals. So I think we just need to do things together more. But anyway, so my proposed solution after all this might sound super cringe or basic, but it's email checking class time, at least if you're still in school in some sense. So what I mean by this is like, when I was in elementary school through high school, there was always like some sort of computer lab session, whether that was like a 1 hour a week thing, or maybe you could sign up for computer science class in high school. You know, you'd be in the computer lab to learn coding. And I guess my proposition of email checking class time is to just have a designated 30 minutes where you like, you're supposed to walk in and it is your task, your duty for those 30 minutes to catch up on emails or just any sort of communication. And I'll talk about this later, but like, it can be extremely general, maybe not even emails, but just anything productive that you want to do. But the first thing I want to talk about is, I know the very first thing that people will say is like, this isn't going to work because students will disobey. It's the same thing that they say when like anyone ever says they should teach how to like pay your taxes in school, or like financial literacy in school. Someone always pipes up like, if we were to do that, I know you wouldn't pay attention. I know you'd like slack off in class because that's what you did all the time. But I just don't think that all students will disobey or not pay attention, because like I didn't. Like I guess what I mean is like, there were classes throughout high school that I felt were like mostly useless to my own life goal. Like, I don't want to name them. Well, I guess I will name them. Like, I took AP US history when I think I could have gotten by just fine with normal US history. But like, in that class setting, just because like maybe I'm like very pushovery, I want to impress the teacher, or I just think academics are good or whatever. Even in AP US history, where I didn't really care about the subject that much, because it was a school setting, I gave it my all because that's just kind of in my nature, I guess. So that's why I said I don't think all will disobey, even if it's school endorsed. Even if it's like half the student body who disobeys and half obeys, you still helped half the student body reach their goal. Okay, another example that I think was actually even better is like, in 7th grade, my English teacher gave us like 15 minutes of creative writing a day. So it was like right after we got out of lunch and into English class, we'd just write. She'd give us a prompt. Like, the prompts were kind of like random and actually not what you'd expect of English class. It would be like, write about what you think would be a very funny commercial to see on TV. Or another one is like, if you could have no building limitations on your house, how would you build your house? Or, what, you guys are about 13 right now. What do you think it'll be like when you're 15? And what was it like when you were 11? Like, things like that, very like open-ended. And it was just like, write for 15 minutes about that. And then it would be silent. And then we'd write for 15 minutes. And then after that ended, then we'd start the actual class. So the reason I bring this up is because these things are like so random, but I would always do it because like there's an authority figure telling me to. But it doesn't mean that like it was against my own creative brain, because I feel like, you know, I would put my own creative spin on it. I would like write about like a house that like was like 10,000 feet in the sky, or I'd write about one that was sort of like the tiny loser chamber, which ended up in Battle for Dream Island, which, you know, eventually became my job. So like, these things are worth it. So anyway, more generally, this sort of 30-minute designated period is just to be productive. And the way it would work is, at the start of class, every student just discusses with either the teacher or their partner, like, I don't know, this is so specific, but like 3 things specifically that you have been meaning to do, know that you should do, but just haven't. And that relates to this sort of like executive dysfunction, where you know in your brain, like, it would be better for pretty much everyone in my world if I just, it could be as simple as like, yeah, do your homework, but also like, yeah, like let's say you've been meaning to write a new novel or something. Like, I just, I feel like too often in life people are like, oh, I've been meaning to like listen to the album or watch that movie, and like I hate this like constant repetition of like, oh, I've been meaning to, I've been bad, I'll do it next time. Like I think anyway, okay, so the other point is that like these sort of tasks are not required to be part of any curriculum. They could be tasks completely outside the scope of any academics even. And then for the meaty chunk of class, you just do it, and at the end of the class, you report how well it went. And then if things didn't go well, then like both you and the teacher can sort of adjust for how it should work next time. And so a few things are like, one, if you have like one teacher and like 30 kids, like this isn't sustainable. So that's why I think it's like a partner is fine as well. Just anyone to sort of like put a little bit of social pressure so that you don't just slack off. And that has to do with like the same like social pressure thing of a campfire and getting up early. Like that's not a bad thing, right? And there's no grade. And like I think the really important thing here is that the main motivation is that I think a lot of teenagers, let's say, want to get a goal of their own done. Like for me as a YouTuber, as a teenager, I was like, I wanted to upload more videos. I wanted to get it done, but like the sort of executive dysfunction, I don't want to keep saying that phrase, but that's what I feel like it was, made it really hard. Or maybe I was really nervous by high expectations from my audience. And there's all these like sort of like mental barriers you build for yourself. And if you're only in your own head, they get thicker and thicker and thicker as like the expectations get higher and higher. But what can finally shatter you through that and get you to actually just get started can just be like telling someone, I'm going to get started and watch me do it for the next 30 minutes, even if it's shit. And the reason why it's even okay if it's shit is just because like, well, I don't know. Like like the most important thing is that you do something. Like, you know, done is better than perfect, right? That's like the perfectionist like saying. Anyway, so this is sort of related to accountability buddies, which I've experimented with as an adult. So when you get out of school, sometimes you and your friend both have a goal, like you want to learn Chinese or you want to lose weight or you want to like live stream more, but like on your own you keep slacking because there's no downside. Your grade doesn't go down when you slack off from your own self goal. So accountability buddies, like you both tell each other like, I'm gonna like pester you to get that goal you said you wanted to get done. I think this is good in theory, but it's always crumbled in practice. And the reason is because like if my accountability buddy is around the same age and around the same like social status level as me, like however it works, like if I see them as my equal, it's so much easier to just be like, I'm gonna skip out this week. Or like if I text them like, oh, I had a sore throat yesterday, like can we just skip it? 99% of the time they'll just say like, yeah, we can skip it. Actually, I was relieved because I didn't want to do my thing either. And that's not good because like I think most of the time these excuses happen because of, again, like the fake mental barriers you build for yourself and not because you can't actually do it. Like even if you do have a slight sore throat and your work will come out like 10% not as good, a 90% complete project still can get you really far. So I think these sort of accountability buddies need to be authority figures to still have influence over you and make you actually feel like, oh, I have to commit. Like I'm like, this isn't really an option. Like I should dedicate these 30 minutes, even no matter how bad I'm feeling, to just getting it done. You have less ability to defy the authority. And I guess another way to compare this, I mean, this sounds like accountability buddies, but it's a little different. There's a lot of times when I like wake up in my bedroom and there's a lot of things I want to get done in the day, but it's like so comfortable in my bed and it's like 10 a.m. and I'll just like scroll on TikTok and I'm just scrolling. And then like randomly a friend will just come and knock on my door because like, I don't know, maybe they have some cool new project they want to show me, or maybe it's like they bought 2 lunches and they want to like give me one, or I don't know what, but they'll knock it on my door and then like the two of us will sit in my room, and then because I now have someone to talk to, I just sort of like unload all the things that I've been thinking in my head, I need to get this done, but I just haven't. And they'll unload all the things that they think in their head they have to get done, but just haven't. And then we'll just look at each other and we'll be like, why don't we just do that now? And while we're sitting in the same room, whether it's a dorm or my bedroom or whatever, we'll just like get it done in each other's company. And within 30 minutes, we'll get more done than the last 2 hours of just wasting away in bed, right? And I think that like if you don't live near other people, like this is nearly impossible. But yeah, like if you're still in school, it can be sort of like imitated by something like email checking class time. Okay, so here's some other like points I want to make about this, and like Okay, I'll just talk about them. So, one, this sort of productivity class requires trust in the students to know what's best for their own life journey. So, let's say a student says, I want to become a YouTuber. The teacher cannot say, YouTube is less stable or YouTube is less reliable than a stable CS career. Um, because, like, the student is the one deciding what tasks are considered productive. And like sometimes the teachers won't even know. So like because I am like a YouTuber who eventually did have a channel that did pretty well, I know this sounds biased and I know it's like, well, it's so easy for you to say you should have invested more time in YouTube because you made it. So in order to like remove that bias, I want to sort of focus on like things that I think the kids younger than me are doing now. And one example is like Roblox programming courses. Like Roblox is like a platform that blew up after my time, I would say. I've never coded in Lua on Roblox, and I feel like I was already an adult when it started to become a normal thing for people to like make their games on Roblox. So what I'm saying is like, let's say I were the teacher in a situation, and like a kid 15 years younger than me says like, for my productivity class, I want to create a new Roblox game. I don't know how that works, and I almost have the urge to say, a Roblox game, like I don't really know how it works. I don't know how you can make money off of it. And maybe it's really like not a good platform because Roblox takes 75% of the cut. I want to protect you, so I'm not gonna let you do that. No. Like unless it's like actually a like legitimately dangerous situation, the adult or teacher just has to trust that the student knows the way. Like I think the Gen Alpha people know the Roblox platform better than I do. And all I have to do is just listen to like what their goal is and like try to give pointers so that they don't get stuck in like infinite loops or something. Um, and so okay, and the reason is because like the older generations, even me in this Roblox case, won't know what the future world is going to look like, and that's what this point is. You need to have more faith in the teenagers to know the world they're going to grow up in better than the boomers do. And this isn't like boomer hate, but like and I guess like to defend the teachers when I was a teenager, when I probably told them like I wanted to become a full-time YouTuber, that had only been around for like 2 or 3 years at that point. So they probably thought that I like they probably couldn't even see a future there. But since I was always on YouTube like 24/7, I knew it was possible. Just like these kids who are doing Roblox probably are on Roblox 24/7 and they know it's possible there, but now I don't. So, but like, another example here is like I remember at one of my meetups, one of my fans came up to me who was like learning how to code at a very young age, and they had created some sort of AI. This is before the big AI boom. This was like 2020. An AI that could like scrape Reddit threads and turn them into those like Reddit videos where it's like it reads aloud all the comments and questions. It's very automated, like something that like used to be done by hand. It's very automated, and now it's completely automated, whatever. But like that like if the student said I want to make that, I have to just let them. And in my head now, I would think that like there's not that much of a future of doing that because it's so automated, and like I don't think there are any fans who like buy merch or like identify as a Reddit story fan. Like it just doesn't seem to there doesn't seem to be a future there, and I can say that all day long. But in order for this whole system to work, again, the trust has to be in the student just to try it. And even if they fail, even if it goes nowhere, like it's their life goal that we're trying to assist. So I would just let this thing happen. Now, if they're doing something illegal or like would put them in the danger of like creepy people on the internet, then of course you stop it. But you don't stop it if it just feels like useless because you don't know it's useless. So that's the gist of it. So at the end of this presentation, I just say, come on, schools, you have to implement this productivity class. Do it now. And to take a full circle, so this whole presentation was about these two types of people in the world, those with 0 emails and those with 32,000. Now, again, I'm in the 32,000 camp, but it would be good if you could reach me via email. Like, think about how many opportunities I've lost because I didn't check my email, like the Kyoto Study Abroad thing. If we had email checking class time, so let's say checking your email was one of the 3 things you wanted to get done in that thing, I would become like 10 times more reachable online because maybe I check my email like once every 10 days right now. I mean, it's not a clockwork, but around that point. Now I would be like every day. And it's like, yeah, like being dragged to this place once a day means like there's a 30-minute period where it's like, even if I don't want to, even if it sounds unpleasant, I'm around other people who's doing it, so I'll do it too. Because that worked for like English class, it worked for history class, it would work for this. Okay, yeah. Um, yeah, like I said, my Kyoto study abroad fiasco would have not happened. And at this point, I've already sort of like touched on shame is not the best teacher, but motivation of being around others is. I just feel like sometimes when somebody exhibits a trait that is not helpful for anyone, including themselves, what other people resort to is like, I know shame sounds very harsh, but it is just shaming them. Like, oh, you didn't pay your rent on time. Like, what are you doing? You're like, you're an adult. Like, how, this is so embarrassing of you. And it's like, that it's true that like no one is helped when someone forgets rent. And this isn't me, but this is just like an example. But like, I don't know if that strategy is going to make it so that next month they will pay their rent better. Like, the shaming makes them feel awful, and maybe like the avoidance of wanting to feel awful later would help them. But I think what will be much, much more substantial is if like, you know, they were in an environment where someone like, I don't know, like they could get in the, I don't want it to sound like, oh, someone needs someone sitting by their side just to pay the rent or something. But like, okay, a better example, go to the gym. Like everyone wants to go to the gym more. Everyone wants to work out and be healthier. Um, but like, if someone doesn't go to the gym like 10 times in a row after they said they would, people will like pseudo shame them. Like, oh, you already skipped out on that? Like, you didn't really care about it, did you? Or like, you gotta try harder. Like these things that like don't really help, but just kind of make you feel bad. But I think what could help 10 times more is to like live with a gym buddy who's like, okay, I'm heading to the gym and you're in the same house as me. I'm going to bring you along, right? Like, don't you want to come? And I think the reason that's so helpful is because when you're by yourself and it's like the time of the clock to go to the gym, no one's watching you. You could just not go. But like when you're around someone else who leads the way, then you can just follow them. It's like 10 times easier, 100 times easier to go with someone else, I think. So that's why the physical proximity, I think, is so important. It's just the way that human brains work. So the last thing is huge opportunities of leaping on the tech when it was early would actually happen. So by that I mean, like I was saying, like when I wanted to become a full-time YouTuber, it had only been around for a couple of years at that point. And you could say, well, Carrie, now your YouTube channel is doing okay, right? Like once you graduated college and you could dedicate full time to it, it didn't turn out so bad, did it? But like it feels like a real shame that there was like 10 whole years where it felt very meandering and like I couldn't really get a footing on like a strategy that was working because I was constantly pushing and pulling with the academic system of people who didn't understand. And I think that like, so here's how it works. Like whenever the world shifts in a certain way, the first people to understand that are always the young people. But the young people are not given the power or agency to really fully take advantage of that until they reach like 25, 27-ish. And like, so anytime there's like a new technology that takes over, I mean, this is a huge generalization, but there might be like a 10-year lag before like the first people who really can take advantage of that, like build a business off of it, turn it into a big like creative marketplace, like whatever you do off of it, there can be quite a bit of lag. And I think that's a shame because that just means like all the innovation, all the creativity slows down by 10 years. Like, so yeah, YouTube, like being paid on YouTube became mainstream in like 2010 and then I wanted it in 2012. If like teachers let me, I feel like I could have been where I am now, not 10 years earlier, but maybe like 5 years earlier, right? And I'm not like too sad about like not going as fast as possible, but like if you can remove inefficiencies, why not? And I think like the same thing with the maybe the Roblox games isn't the best example, but I'm sure there's like something new. And I don't want to say AI because I think AI is like slop most of the time, but like some new technology will come up where the teachers don't understand it and the students and the kids will, and it will be like 20 years before a school ever implements an actual class to teach it because of the delay. The student will work on it in their free time and they'll get really, really good because teenagers just learn things so quickly, but there's no system in place to hold that and like, to like really, I don't know, support them. So they'll like burn out or like get busy with like other homework and it will fizzle out and all that like work gone into like studying this new technology will become nothing. all you need, I think, to support this kid as they become the pioneers of this new technology is just tell them, don't stop. You have a good thing going. I'm like watching your rise. Because like the teachers who were watching me, they didn't have to know YouTube because I figured it out, right? But the reason I stopped was because like homework got too intense, and I also felt like no adult in my world cared. So I was like I want to do something that doesn't make the adults in my world disappointed. Like I want to do what society thinks like a well-rounded adult does, but like the adults around me like weren't caring. So I think all I needed is just one person to care. They did not need to be better than me at YouTube or even like sufficient at YouTube. They just needed to like show like 1 ounce of like that's really cool, keep going at it. And or like one hint of like, oh, you got banned on AdSense, I think you should fight for your right to continue to make money on YouTube. Like it, yeah, the adults don't have to be very knowledge, they don't need to have much knowledge, they just need to have the support. So that's the whole presentation. Thank you for watching. And like I don't know if like any of this is useful. Like I'm probably not gonna create a school because like I've never done any training in education. And sometimes people might wonder like, why are you making these videos, Carrie? I think the reason is just because like I feel like so many years of my sort of goals and journey has been like wasted and squandered due to very easily fixable things. And there's part of me that thinks that like either A, I want to help the next generation of creators, or B, like my struggles will not be in vain if they fix it later. Like if I went through these struggles and then nothing comes out of it, then it feels like, oh, I really did waste 10 years of my life, and that just feels so awful because like life is so short and I just can't deal with that. So it has to go into something productive. Like it has to somehow push the path forward. So that's why I make these videos. Like I don't I don't know, it does feel kind of like no one's asking for these, but I just have to. Like I just feel like I have an itch to like let it out. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah, thank you for watching this video. It's almost midnight now. Goodbye.